Hey there everybody, it's time for another Mod Monday, and we're going to be taking a look at a mod called the Applied Energistics mod. I've been playing around with this mod a lot in my Resurrection of the Mage King series, and it's a really wonderful mod, and I felt like doing it for Mod Monday. Although the version I'm doing is a little bit behind because I'm using the Feed the Beast pack, which I think most everyone is using anyway, so if you're going to be playing with Applied Energistics, it's likely going to be in here. So let's get started. So, this mod adds, well, first off, a new ore, which actually drops two different items. And you can mine this ore with a wooden pickaxe or grater, so basically any pickaxe you can make, you can mine this quartz with. And it will drop quartz dust and quartz crystals. And you actually need quite a bit of this quartz stuff. So if you're planning on doing a lot with Applied Energistics, be ready to go and find as much of this stuff as you can get a hold of. I'm just going to be mining up a little bit because we're just going to be using this later on. So, on top of a new ore, this adds tons of new things you can craft. One of the first things that you could possibly craft would be a quartz grindstone. That's what it was called. And the recipe is like so, at least in the Feed the Beast pack. Let's see, if I look online, the quartz grindstone... The quartz grindstone online actually has its own wooden gear. And the wooden gear is made with just 4 sticks, so basically like a regular Buildcraft gear. And in order to operate your quartz grindstone, you actually will need a crankshaft. I think that's what that's called. A wooden crank. I was close enough. And what this thing can do is it functions like a macerator and letting you get double ore. So, go ahead and throw a bit of gold in there and give the crank a twist. And it'll start a process where this bar will fill up, but you have to turn the crank by hand every time. As I thought the bar was supposed to fill up. Huh, I guess the bar doesn't fill up. Maybe it might be bugged. But you can also throw in quartz or 2 wheat. And it will go from left to right in which one starts getting processed. And when you grind up wheat, you get flour, which you can throw into a furnace of any variety and you will get a bread from it. So, you get a little bit more bread for your wheat that way. And when you grind up some quartz crystals, you get 4 quartz dust. Alright, moving on. Another thing you're going to need to make is a quartz cutting knife, which is a special tool designed pretty much entirely for making these processors, or processor assemblies. Now you can make 2 different kinds of processor assemblies. You can make a gold one or a diamond one. And in order to make this silicone wafer here at the bottom, simply throw quartz dust into a furnace and you will get your silicone wafers. Now, what do you do with the processor assemblies? Well, they are the main thing designed for creating storage devices. And I think I actually got this wrong. Yeah. It's not supposed to be this one. It's supposed to be an actual processor. This is a processor assembly. In order to make a processor, you have to smelt these processor assemblies. There is another way of making these processors. I'll get to that in a little while. Anyway, this is an ME controller, and its purpose is to help you set up your first network. In fact, all these recipes from here on are designed for making a network. What is a network? A network is a way of storing items in data form. So, in order to actually store your items in data form, you're going to need a chest to store them in. So, with a basic processor and some quartz and redstone and a little bit of iron, you make a conversion matrix, which when you apply it to a chest and surround it with metal, you'll get an ME chest, which looks like this. Now, I can't actually put anything into this chest right now. That's because there's a little slot up here that requires a specific item. We'll get to how you make that item in just a few more recipes. For now, we're going to work on the rest of the network. In order to create the rest of the network, you're going to need to make some quartz fiber. Quartz fiber is then made into an ME cable, which is used to connect different ME machinery, like so, and used in some recipes like the recipe for this ME access terminal. Now, in order to actually store items into a chest, you're going to need to make a storage device. For that, you need to make a storage cell. This is the most basic one you can make, a very small storage cell. And then you craft it into an ME 1K storage. There's 4 different levels of storage. We'll get to those in a moment. In fact, it'll be in that little contraption over there. Right, let's clear this all out. Oops, I did not mean to actually get rid of that storage. So in order to store items in this chest, you need to have one of these Mark I storage units. However, that's not enough. You also need to be providing this chest with power. Now, there's 2 different types of power which can be applied to these ME items. You can go ahead and use Buildcraft power, which is much more efficient, or you can use Industrial Craft power. And when it gets power, this little light on top turns green, and I can now put items into this chest. And cool thing about this is that if you are storing multiple stacks of items, you're not going to end up with multiple stacks of item in your chest. You're going to get one stack with a number. So kind of works like a barrel from the factorization mod. Now when I hover over this storage unit, it tells me how much bytes are being used. Bytes tells you how much items it can store internally. And below that is types. And types tells you how many different types of items can be stored. Basically, one type is one square. So I have 3 different items in here. I have quartz, quartz dust, and copper blocks. So it's using 3 of 63 types of items. And if I take this out, it actually will store the information of what items are in this on here. So if I put it back in, it shows up. Or I can put it into a different chest entirely. Now, if I break this, there's no longer going to be power going to this chest, meaning that if I put this in here, actually there will be power in the chest, it's just residual power. Here, let's break the chest and put down a different one. There. Now there's no more power. So what if I don't want to be powering this chest directly? Well, I can go ahead and power this ME controller instead, and it will power an entire network. However, we currently have low power because this single, well, actually it's because it's going to be evening and this isn't quite enough energy from one single solar panel. So let's go ahead and put one up on top, and that should give us a little bit more. It keeps on going on and offline. Alright, let's get something a little bit stronger, shall we? Let's just get an entire low voltage solar array. In fact, we'll get two. There we go. When this thing is getting enough power, the bar will slowly fill up till it's green. When it's green, that means you're getting more than enough energy. If it's yellow, you're starting to get a little bit of a power issue. And if it's red, you are having a major power crisis and you won't be able to get your items out of the storage system. So what is the point of an ME access terminal? Well, an ME access terminal allows you to access inventories in the network without actually accessing the inventory directly. Meaning you can go ahead and store or get items out from anywhere you have an access terminal at. It also allows you to search for items specifically, so if I want just quartz, I can type in quartz. There's some other functions in here that are useful as well. We'll get to those when we get to the bigger network I have set up. And since I put items in here, they actually got stored on this storage unit since there's only one storage unit in the network. Let's take that out though. In fact, let's get rid of this network entirely. We don't need it anymore because we're going to move on to the bigger network I made. Now this bigger network I made has a few different items in it that I'm using for storage. This one is an ME drive, and it actually is able to store up to 10 different types of storage units. Meaning you can store a significant amount of data with just one ME drive. And the different types of storage units actually are a 1K storage, which stores about 1,000 bytes, a 4K, which stores about 4,000 bytes, a 16K, which stores about 16,000 bytes, and a 64K, which actually stores more than 64,000 bytes, but it's accurate enough. The 1K and 4K both use lower level storage units. A storage segment is actually made of a basic processor and multiple storage cells, meaning you'd have to have at least 4 basic processors to make this. Whereas a 16K storage uses a storage block, which actually uses multiple storage segments and an advanced processor. And then the 64K uses multiple storage blocks and another advanced processor. So a 64K storage unit requires a lot of resources to go into it, but in return you get to store a significant amount of items, although still only up to 63 different types. And this other terminal I have here is a crafting terminal. Now this is kind of cool because it allows you to actually craft items using the items that are already in your storage system. In fact, if I go ahead and grab some sticks here, we can go ahead and put those in here. And then if I put this storage device right here, we should have access to... Very strange, it's not actually accessing the network. This is very peculiar. And now my device is gone. Very strange. Now, it might need to reboot the system. That does happen sometimes. So let's break the power and everything will shut off eventually. There we go. And power is low, and we require a lot of power. Alright, will you work now? You're still not getting the right storage units. That's fine, I guess. Oh, it was getting the right storage units. I think I broke the system again. Ugh, I am bad at this mod. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about some things that don't require power at the moment. Here we have a PreFormatter and a pattern encoder. A PreFormatter lets you code some of these storage units to only accept specific types of items. For example, I can encode this storage unit to only allow wheat to be put into it. And I click the format, and now I have a 1K storage titled wheat only, which only will allow wheat to be stored in it. Might not seem as useful as you would think. There we go, we got power back. And notice the orange dot right there. That is the wheat only storage unit. And what that means is that I have reached the type limit for the unit. Because it's formatted for only wheat and there's actually no items in it, well, it will only allow wheat in it. So, let's see if I can actually use this crafting terminal now. Yes, here we go, finally. And I'm going to go ahead and throw the wheat in there. So, if I take a stick and put it there, and take this quartz and do this, it actually allows me to make a quartz sword, which is another one of the items that is added in this mod. Actually, you can get quartz of any of the basic items. Now, if I were to click this to craft it, it actually doesn't use up this recipe, but instead uses up the items in the network to make it. And if I ever run out of those items, then it will use up the recipe plus whatever's left in here. So let's go ahead and put all these swords back in. So, what to do next? Well, I did mention this pattern encoder, which is actually kind of important for this big multi-block structure over here. So let's talk about that next. This multi-block structure over here is an automatic crafting system. It is made of a heat vent, assembler containment walls, and there's two other items that actually go into this. And these require being in the center. There's crafting CPUs, which increase the speed of the device, and there are pattern providers, which gives it its internal inventory. For each pattern provider inside of this multi-block structure, you get one page where you can store patterns. Now, it functions similar to the crafting terminal I showed you, except that it's able to store crafting recipes and keep them in your network. So, let's get a whole bunch more quartz, and we'll actually grab some sticks out of here. Oops. Now, in order to actually use this, you're going to need a blank pattern, which is made like so. In fact, I've kind of been behind on showing you guys all the recipes, so stop doing that. Here's the PreFormatter. Why am I in here? There's the PreFormatter. This is the pattern encoder, which is very similar to the PreFormatter, actually. Just a couple glass difference. The assembler containment walls, heat vents, crafting CPU, pattern provider, and the crafting terminal, which actually does require an access terminal as well. I think we're good for now. So, in order to use a blank pattern, you need to place it in here, and then you do your crafting recipe like so. Then you click encode, and you have an encoded assembler pattern. And it actually tells you what it is and what materials it requires. So you then take this pattern and place it into the assembler chamber, and now when you go to something like an access terminal or a crafting terminal, if you remove all the item that is in here, it will say if it is able to craft it, and it will let you know by saying craft underneath the item. So if I were to have all the items in here necessary for crafting more swords, I can click on this and it will open up a crafting interface. Well, not necessarily a crafting interface, but an order interface. So if I say, hey, I need 10 quartz swords, and I click begin, it will start crafting quartz swords. Pretty nifty. Alright, what to talk about next? Well, how about this thing right here? In order to actually use this thing, I'm actually going to use one of these chests. So, let's take one of these and place it in here. Actually, I can't use one of these chests because it's kind of tied to a network, which will actually use something. So let's go ahead and get a different chest. Flop it out like so. Give it its own power. Now let's put all these metals in here. There. So this is an I/O port. And its function is fairly limited. What it does is allow you to transfer items from a storage unit into the network, or items from the network into a storage unit. And we're going to use this, like, say I was out mining and I have a storage unit that's just full of ores. I could go ahead and throw all those ores into the system myself, or I can drop off this storage unit and it will transfer all the data into the network. And if we look in here, there's actually some processes going on. These processes are being done automatically thanks to an import bus and an export bus, delivering my ores into a pulverizer, where they're getting pulverized, and then pulling them back into the network. The way that these buses work is you can give them up to 8 items that they can export or import. Of course, if you want them to just import every item from an inventory, just leave it blank and it'll export everything. Or import everything, not export. Export means exiting. So, in order to craft these things, that's a grass block, you need an interface, which I will cover it after we're done with this, and sticky pistons or regular pistons, depending on which one you're trying to do. And over here I have it delivering the pulverized items into a powered furnace where they're getting smelted and pulled back into the system. So basically I have an automated smelting facility with my network, which is pretty useful. Oh, that weird flash you see in the pipes every now and then? That's just energy being transmitted between the machinery. So, an ME interface. What an ME interface allows you to do is have things like pipes go and connect to the network directly. So over here we have a wheat farm which has completely grown and is ready to be harvested. Well, I tend to prefer using golems for that job, although this works the same way with any automated wheat farm. So I place my golems down and they start harvesting all the wheat and stuff, and after he's collected enough items, he will drop them in the chest. There we go. And the items are starting to get pulled into the pipes, and then they're getting directly placed into this interface. And you don't actually see anything going on here, but if you go and check this crafting terminal or an access terminal, you'll see that wheat is actually in the system now. Now, this time he's giving me some seeds, and I have this set to export seeds, because I don't want seeds in my... I decided I don't want seeds in my network, so it's going to export all the seeds to go somewhere else entirely. So that's a pretty useful and cool system. Now, what is going on with my wheat? Why is it always disappearing? And why am I getting some flour instead? Well, I have this actually depositing wheat into a macerator where it is getting ground up into flour. And it's the same recipe. It's 2 wheat turns into a flour. Now, why am I doing that? Well, I am interested in taking the flour and adding that to this export bus so that when I'm getting flour, it's automatically being turned into bread for me. And the reason I'm doing that is because it ties into the next item that I have set up here. This is a storage bus, and this works kind of like both an import and export bus. However, it's got a much bigger interface here. And right now, it's exporting all this bread. If I put something in here that isn't in the export bus, I believe. Or maybe I have to apply a redstone signal. I actually haven't worked with this thing too much. See if I get a redstone signal. Nothing happens. Alright, I'm going to have to actually wiki this one. I've gotten most everything on this mod memorized. It's just this storage bus. Let's not change which items can be removed. Yeah, it doesn't actually tell you how you get to extract. So maybe if it's out of bread... Oh wait, actually that just allowed me to take all the bread from here. So that's how it works. It allows you to extract items from a chest directly. So that's pretty neat. And this also works with barrels from what I read. So you can place this on the bottom of a barrel and you can pull items directly out of your barrels. Pretty cool. Now this mod is currently still in development. So a lot of things might change as things are going along. For example, the power system. Right now it only uses buildcraft energy or industrial craft energy. It might end up making its own energy source. Or it might rebalance the energy that it is currently using. Right now, if you are using EU, you can get 2 units of energy per EU. However, with buildcraft energy, you're able to get 5 units of energy per MJ. Which works out great for me because I tend to prefer using buildcraft energy because I'm now able to develop a stabilized green system that is all steam powered and outputs so much energy that I can't use it all. So this is the Applied Energistics mod. It's definitely worth having a look at if you enjoy making fancy automated systems and end up running out of storage space quite easily. As always, link to the mod itself will be in the description, though you can always check out the Feed the Beast mod packs with this mod to give it a try with a much more complicated setup than just on its own. Hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and fave, and I will see you next time. Take care, and goodbye.